Hello and welcome back to the Shakey Sonnet Show. I am Tootight Lautrec, the drag laureate of the Sonnetarium, and here we are once again in the Sonnetarium at the bottom of the down staircase in the permanently sequestered remainder section of an unnamed local library, which may or may not have a couple of lackluster lions on the front steps, looking a little tired, a little worn out, mirroring perhaps our dear bedraggled narrator in Sonnets 102 and 103, which we will be looking at today. After today, we will have considered officially more than 2/3 of the entire sonnet series. Yes. Now, Edmondson and Wells contend that there is, in fact, a break chronologically after Sonnet 103 in terms of when Shakespeare wrote them. And so I'm taking the hint, and we in the Sonnetarium will also be taking a break after Sonnet 103 today, and we'll return refreshed and slightly more mature, if you can believe it, in the autumn. Now, you can look at Edmondson and Wells' timeline of when the sonnets were written. It's somewhat confusing in their book, but if you're interested in seeing what I care about it, I don't really care about what they say. It's interesting. You can look it up and see how it fits in hypothetically to the development of Shakespeare, his artistry perhaps, but it seems slightly hypothetical to me, and I really don't care because I'm interested in looking at sonnets 1 to 154 in the order in which they're presented in the 1609 quarto, just for the heck of it, to see what kind of story it builds, if we can build any kind of a story. And so far, it's been a pretty interesting story. Since today is a celebratory episode in which we're celebrating the season finale, yay, 2/3 of the way through, yay, I thought, well, what better way to celebrate than with a cocktail, and also with a cocktail party vocabulary word. And today's cocktail party vocabulary word is aporia, A-P-O-R-I-A, which is talking about the inability to talk about something, which describes sonnets 102 and 103 wonderfully well. Oh, here's my lipstick stain over here. I'll continue with that. I got a little bit of a head start on you. Now, sonnets 102 and 103 are highly structured, intricately metered poems about writer's block. So, also as sonnets 100 and 101 were about appearance versus reality, so too are sonnets 102 and 103, starting with a writer who's writing exquisitely structured poems that seem to be about not being able to write exquisitely structured poems. Aporia. Oh, a nice little tang of olive in there. Really hits the spot. So just as we ended Sonnet 101 with seeming and showing, the last line of Sonnet 101 was to make him seem long hence as he shows now. Appearance versus reality. Sonnet 102 also picks up that same idea of seeming and showing in the first two lines. Seeming and showing, which you'll hear as I read it, which I'm going to read right now. And then we'll talk about it a little later. Sonnet 102. My love is strengthened, though more weak in seeming. I love not less, though less the show appear. That love is merchandise, whose rich esteeming the owner's tongue doth publish everywhere. Our love was new, and then but in the spring, when I was wont to greet it with my lays, as Philomel in summer's front doth sing, and stops his pipe in growth of riper days. Not that the summer is less pleasant now than when her mournful hymns did hush the night, but that wild music burdens every bough, and sweets grown common lose their dear delight. Therefore, like her, I sometime hold my tongue, because I would not dull you with my song. So here we get the seeming and the showing. My love is strengthened, though more weak in seeming. I love not less, though less the show appear. Perhaps because I can't write as well, or the poems that I used to praise you with as well, it seems that I don't love you any less, is what he's saying. And I'm not some, that love is merchandised, whose riches esteeming. I'm not some word whore who sells my poems for show like some other people, hello rivals out there. No, my love is true. I'm not selling it for anybody to see. In the second quatrain, our love was new. Sounds a little bit, past tense. Our love was new. And then, but in the spring, when I was wont to greet it with my lays, my songs, my poems, as Philomel in summer's front doth sing, summer's front meaning the beginning of summer, and stops his pipe in growth of riper days. Now, there seems to be some gender confusion here. In the poem, I mean. I know, who'd guess? Stops his pipe in growth of riper days. Now, the nightingale, Philomel, the myth is about Philomel, who was a woman. And so the critical consensus is that, yes, even Shakespeare nods. He got the gender wrong. It probably should be a her. So there's a little bit of gender confusion and a little bit of nostalgia because we're talking in past tense. And when our love was new, everything was great. I was on my game. I was wont to greet our love with my lays, with my poems. But now, it appears we've ripened. It's not the spring anymore. It's not even the beginning of summer. Back when one nightingale was singing, everything was great. P.S. Nightingale, that's me. I'm the nightingale. I was the one nightingale singing your praises. But in riper days, that old bird stops his pipe in growth of riper days. And if you hear something slightly sexual there, with the pipe and the riper, etc., well, that's up to you. As our love ripens like the seasons, I've ripened, you've ripened, our love has ripened. Now every damn nightingale in the neighborhood is singing your praises. And, one nightingale, special. A cacophony of nightingales, not so special. I can't even hear myself think, much less write yet one more sonnet about you and your praises with all this nightingale chatter going on. So then we get to the third quatrain. Not that summer is less pleasant now. That's pretty clear. Not that summer or singing your praises is less pleasant now. Because, just so much noise, all those nightingales, so many birds. Blame it on the birds. Not that summer is less pleasant now than when her mournful hymns did hush the night with that wild music Burton's every bough. So many birds, birds, chatter, 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 everybody singing your praises. And sweets grown common lose their delight, which we'll come back to later. But too many birds singing your praises, too many praises, it gets dull after a while. And then we get to the couplet. Therefore, like her, and here he gets the gender right, at least for Philomel. Like her, I sometime hold my tongue, because I would not dull you with my song. Now, in the myth, Philomel was raped, and her rapist cut out her tongue so that she wouldn't tell on him. And the gods, in pity, transformed her from her human form into a nightingale. So this last line, therefore like her I sometime hold my tongue, raped, mutilated, loses your human form, versus boo-hoo for you, you can't write a sonnet. It's a little unbalanced there, and quite a bit of an overstatement, but there is the implication, I think, of possibly a bit of injury, or at least the backdrop of the possibility of injury on the narrator's part. And then the final line, because I would not dull you with my song, which could be dull the brilliance of your charms by oversaturating the market with praise poems, or bore you. But let's back up for just one moment to line 12. Sweets grown common with their dear delight. That, in my estimation, could be the reality lurking under all this seeming praise. You were cute. You're still cute, but 7-year itch. Variety is the spice of life. Familiarity breeds contempt. Sweets grown common lose their dear delight, and all that jazz. Not a particularly flattering sonnet if you look a little too closely at it. So we go from that to Sonnet 103, which starts not just with the word alack, one word, but with the echo of the two-word version of it, which is a lack, an absence. So here we've got writer's block in the face of a beauty too great to reduce to mere language, apparently. Let's look. Sonnet 103. Alack, what poverty my muse brings forth, that having such a scope to show her pride, the argument all bare is of more worth than when it hath my added praise beside. Oh, blame me not, if I no more can write. Look in your glass, and there appears a face that overgoes my blunt invention quite, dulling my lines and doing me disgrace. Were it not sinful then, striving to mend, to mar the subject that before was well? For to no other pass my verses tend than of your graces and your gifts to tell, and more, much more, than in my verse can sit, your own glass shows you when you look in it. So, poverty, muse, we've been there before. The argument is all bare, and my argument, which is you and my love for you, is all bare. Okay? Says more than I could ever say, but I'm saying, because here he is saying it. You all bear, you my argument all bear, it says more than my muse can say. First quatrain. Second quatrain. Oh, blame me not if I no more can write. Don't blame me. But if you look at the full sentence, it seems to be saying, don't blame me. Just look in your glass and you'll see how beautiful you are, and you'll understand that you're so beautiful that I can't distill it into language, is the apparent surface of it. But if you look at the first full sentence, oh, blame me not if I no more can write. Look in your glass. So, don't blame me, blame the mirror. Because either it's your fault that I can't write, or it's the fault of your beauty that I can't write, or it's the outward seeming beauty that your mirror shows that's at fault about why I can't write. Because maybe what is being shown isn't the deep down depths of who you are. Is what it's saying slightly as a subtext to the surface praise that's going on here. And look in your glass, there appears a face dulling my lines and doing me disgrace. Well, is he being done disgrace because of what the beloved may or may not have done in the past? Or is he just talking about his writing? The beauty that is shown there disgraces his poetry because his poetry can't stand up to it. That's the surface of what's going on. Dulling my lines and doing me disgrace. Third quatrain. Were it not sinful then, striving to mend, to mar the subject, to mar the subject that before was well. In attempting to praise you, I would even do you harm by doing it because it couldn't stand up to the beauty that is you. For to no other pass, or to no other effect, or to no other end, my verses tend than of your graces and your gifts to tell. That's all I want to do is to talk all about your graces. And My muse is silent on that regard. And then we come to the couplet, which is fully monosyllabic and fully monotonous, and more, much more than in my verse can sit. Your own glass shows you when you look in it. Monosyllabic all the way through. Look in the mirror and you'll see what I praise. Take a good look at yourself. Maybe you'll understand why my pen has run dry. Or the third possibility is, I can only praise what you see in the mirror, your looks, not yourself. Perhaps what you seem to be at first glance is not what the last dozen or couple dozen sonnets have shown that you really are. So again, it's appearance versus reality. And the couplet, and more, much more. There's more, but I'm not saying it's all good. And I'm not even saying it's good at all. In fact, I'm not saying, because writer's block, I'm just saying. That's what's going on. A rather double-edged way to end the sonnet, and a rather double-edged way to end the season of sonnets. There seems to be an exhaustion of the narrator, and I can understand that as well. He's either worn out to the point of writer's block or just worn out from trying to keep the whole relationship going. It's not really quite clear to me. 97, 98, and 99 pronounced this, his oops, I went to 94, sorry. 97, 98, and 99 are talking about the sadness that he feels in the absence of the lover, and then these four writer's block sonnets are saying that maybe everything is all done and washed up anyway, because he can't even write about him anymore. Slightly different from what has gone on earlier. So, in these particular sonnets, is there a male or a female? No, there is not either one. It could be anybody's game. Dramatically, seems to be a lover, possibly grown tired, possibly looking for fresh blood, possibly similar. Oh, you've been standing here this whole time, crooked. Oberon and Titania in Midsummer Night's Dream when they're kind of fooling around on each other. I don't know. Narratively, maybe I'm dry because after everything, you're not as young or fresh or moist or tight as you were before. And after everything we've been through, well, I'm dry. Sort of. Look in the mirror and figure out why. To which I say, ouch. It's an ouch couched in a vouching for his beauty, but an ouch all the same. But also, again, we don't have the beloved's version of events here at all. So it's up to us to begin to think about what could be going on. And because we don't have the beloved's voice, perhaps our narrator is just a superficial son of a bitch going through a midlife crisis, and he's just a dirty dog out looking for new, fresh meat. It's not like that's never happened in the history of the world. So that could be what's going on here. I'm not saying it is, I'm not saying it isn't, I'm just saying I'm considering it. So that's the state of things as we go off for the summer to take our break. We leave this on a note of self-reflection, and that's good. Maybe I'll do a little self-reflection as well as I go to the beach with my beach read. And, oh, well, I don't know, maybe perhaps my other beach read, Great Escapes from Detroit by Joseph O'Malley, still available on Amazon. If you do a little of your own self-reflection while you're off at the beach or doing whatever it is that you do during your summers, remember, don't get too lost in navel gazing. Remember to look up, look around every once in a while, and recognize that there are wonders in the world, and they're waiting there for you, waiting for you to to pay attention. Until we meet again, happy, happy summer. I am Tootight Lautrec. Mwah.